much, Edward. All right, let's talk a little bit more about what this escalating debt level is going to mean for us all. For more analysis, former CBO director and president of American Action Forum, Douglas Holtz-Eakin. Good to see you. So we just keep borrowing and borrowing and borrowing some more. Is it ever going to change?
It's going to have to change. I mean, there's an enormous amount of red ink in this forecast. There's been a lot of red ink for years, and as you noted, it's moved up by 2 years. The year in which we actually hit trillion-dollar deficits used to be 2022. Now it's 2020. So it's coming fast. You average well over almost 5% of GDP for the 10 years. That's an enormous amount of deficit, and we'll roughly double the debt in the hands of the public over 10 years. So something's got to give.
So deficit goes up. We need to borrow more to be able to pay our bills and meet our demands. Yep. And one would have to think that at some point these interest rates are going to go high. We are in a higher interest rate raising environment, even though it's taken the Fed a while to move on that front. But as rates move higher and we continue having to finance these deficits, what does it mean for our ability to function?
It means that the federal government's becoming the single most source of financial volatility. We are very sensitive to interest rate fluctuations. The CBO is showing higher inflation in the years to come, higher interest rates in the years to come. They've built that into their forecast, but if events were to transpire that push rates up even further, that's a lot of borrowing. It's not negotiable, and it crowds out other objectives of the federal government. So it's not a good situation. It's one where you'd like to see the Congress do a U-turn, get the spending under control.
Yeah, then we got to get the spending under control. I mean, we really do. Right. And I don't mean to be completely alarmist, but as a student of history, Rome didn't fall for military reasons. Rome fell for economic reasons. Right. Economic reasons, you had too many people living on the dole. And eventually, push comes to shove, and they can't finance themselves anymore. Not to be too alarmist, but if we don't get this under control at some point, what does it mean for our children? What does it mean for us? What does it mean for our children's children?
It's a terrible scenario to simply let it go under the current law, because we will, in fact, run into a debt crisis. There's no way around that. That's the arithmetic of it. We know what happens in the crisis. We've seen it in Greece. We've seen it in Portugal. You have to make sharp cutbacks in federal programs. The economy is already struggling under the burden of the debt, so you've got a combination of very bad economic conditions and budgetary distress. No one wants to do that. No. And the real key, Trish, is the programs that are driving this, the really big spending programs, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, Affordable Care Act, are all programs that we need to make better. We don't want to take our hands off them and say, oh, these are great programs, we don't want to mess with them. Those are all programs that can be improved, and they should get on the business of improving them and putting them on a sustainable track.
I think back to President Bush, right, trying to reform Social Security. Sure. and the privatized accounts, and that landed him in a whole sea of trouble. One of the challenges, and we were just talking about this, by the way, Doug, with China. In other words, they have a regime for life. We have administrations that are there for 4 years, 8 years if they're lucky, lawmakers in D.C. that are trying to get reelected every 2
Sure.
years. So consequently, there's no will to actually take any kind of pain.
Well, if something can't go on forever, it won't. And this can't go on forever. So something has to change. That includes the politics of reform. It can no longer be okay to leave Social Security unchanged. That means people get their benefits cut by 25% in a few short years. It can no longer be okay to let Medicare just run out of financial control. So those things have to be different, and this is the time when we need to address them.
All right, Douglas Holtz-Eakin, thank you very much. It's always good to see you.
Thank you.
Hopefully we do get some discipline at some point. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg